So in your Essential Elements book or in any piece of music that you look at, you will see at the start of the piece of music a key signature. Now, even if your key signature looks like this one that we have up here, it's still a key signature. Right now, we've got this key signature that has no sharps or flats written in it, which means that we're probably in the key of C major, which is one of the most common keys that we find when we're starting off music because we don't have to think about those sharps and flats. C major, however, can also be called A minor, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later on. So C major, the key of C major, comes from our C major scale, which of course has no sharps or flats. Now, a key signature is a shorter way of collating and putting together all of the different sharps and flats that are in a scale. So to show you what I'm talking about, we're going to use this example of C minor. So here is a C minor scale. C minor scale has an E flat, an A flat, and a B flat. So this note, and this note are all flat. Instead of writing the flat symbol every time we see an E flat, an A flat, or a B flat, we can collate them, put them together at the start of the piece. So instead of having them in the scale, quickly we can see the whole song is going to be in the same scale because often songs don't jump around too much. They stay in the same song. So I can just remember, oh yeah, cool, we're in the key of C minor. So they are all going to be flat. It's E flat, A flat, B flat. Cool. So let's have a look at some other scales as well that get a bit more tricky. So something like D flat major has so many flats in it. Can you imagine having to write that out every time you wrote the scale, or every time you created a melody from that key? So it'd be a lot of work. So instead we make it a bit simpler and we put them all at the start in the key signature. 5 flats. Then these flats are all arranged in a bit of a special order. They're not just put in any order. I'm going to just flick back to, if I go back to my C minor scale, you'll see that the flats at the start, you can see up here, we've got B flat, E flat, A flat. Then when we go to a scale that has a few more flats, such as D flat major, 5, we have B flat, E flat, A flat, just like in C minor, and then we've added D flat and G flat. Now, this shows us that there's this pattern and there's this order as to where we write the flat symbols in the key signature. It doesn't just appear randomly. And this is like when you have a dice. Hang on, let me get a dice to help talk about this example. Never mind, couldn't find a dice. But on a dice, you have got the dots are arranged in a particular way that helps you recognize them quickly. And in maths, when we're learning maths in prep, we learn to subitize, which is to recognize this symbol in this group of numbers, this group of dots, quickly, and we know what it means. So on a dice, you can see 6. 6 comes up on a dice. You know it straight away because you can see that the way that the dots are arranged on a dice, same with 4, 5, 3, 2, and of course 1. So the same thing goes for our key signatures. Because they're arranged in this particular way, we can look for and do quicker things to know how to read them. So if I see that there are 5 flats, I can see 5 flats. I know D flat major scale has 5 flats. I can play this song pretty well knowing that there's these 5 flats. So first we have B flat, followed by E flat, A flat, D flat, then G flat. If we were going to keep going, we'd then have C flat and finally F flat. So you can see there's this little bit of a pattern happening as we go. We've sort of got leave a whole space and a half, and then we have it there. So we've got on the line, then upper space, then we have in the space below the next line. Anyway, that can get a little confusing. So there's a few fun rhymes and things that you can remember to help you. So first one is, you could remember, battle ends and down goes Charles's father. That's very, I feel like British. Down goes Charles's father. I think Prince Charles leads that. Makes you think of Britain anyway. But maybe you can come up with your own one. You might be able to think of something else that starts with B, E, A, D, G, C, F. So key signatures can also comprise of sharps, which means they also have sharps in them. For example, A major, which we're going to look at later on. A major has got 3 sharps. They are C sharp, F sharp, and G sharp. E major has 4, F sharp, G sharp, C sharp, and D sharp, which we can put in the key signature. You may have noticed already that between A major and E major, you can see there's a pattern similarly with our sharps. So they're arranged opposite to the order of flats. So if we skip ahead and add in all of our sharps, now we've got 7 sharps before we had 7 flats, we can now remember that we have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, and then B sharp. And we could remember something like Father Charles goes down and ends battle. Or maybe fat cats go down and eat bananas. Oh, I like that one. Fat cats go down and eat bananas. Anyway, something that you can help remember you the order of the sharps that we place in our when we're looking at key signatures. Here are what they would look like when we have the grand stave, which is when we have that left hand, as for people playing piano for a while, or what we call our bass clef. So we've got, this is what 7 flats looks like: 7 sharps, 7 flats in bass, and 7 sharps in bass. Thanks for watching this short video on key signatures. Now we're going to move into looking at, say, A minor scale, and how we form that from our major scales that we know probably pretty well. So what you just heard was a minor scale on double bass. That was A minor scale, using all natural notes, because I've made a few of the notes a little bit different. I've lowered them by a semitone from the A major scale. So an A minor scale, even when it's played on an instrument that's got a brighter tone and a bit dark and a bit happier than a double bass can have a bit of a dark and low tone produced by it, especially when it plays minor scales. But most instruments give that sort of melancholy, sad sound that we generally associate with a minor scale. So let's look at a minor scale. There are actually 3 different sorts of minor scales. There's the natural minor, there's a harmonic minor, and a melodic minor. Melodic minors are my favorite. However, we're going to look at the natural minor just for starters for today. If you've heard of the other ones, fantastic. By all means, give them a go and try them out on your instrument. But let's look at a natural minor today. So, natural minor. You've seen these letters before. The W stands for whole and the H stands for half. This is telling us the step, as in the different interval between each notes in the scale. In a minor scale, we have got, from the first note to the second note is a whole tone, then a half tone, then whole tone, a half tone, whole tone, whole tone. Right, sounds a bit confusing. This is what we're talking about. So we start with the note A. So here's my treble clef, the note A highlighted in red on the keyboard. Then we take a whole step from A to get to B. See how I've gone from one white note to the next white note on the piano? Then we take a half step to get to C, because there is no semitone between B and C. So we take a half step, gets us to C. From C to D is a whole tone, or 2 half steps. From D to E is a whole tone. And then E to F is another half step, because you'll see that there's no black, which is also called a sharp or a flat key, between E and F. We then have a whole step to take us to G, and finally a whole step to take us to A. And that was the scale that I played just before on double bass. So A natural minor is these notes: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Have a listen. I don't think that quite came through with the audio, so I'm going to hit play again, and hopefully it will work this time. Let's give it a go, shall we? Alright, have a listen to A natural minor. There we go. So that's what an A natural minor scale sounds like, as well as hearing it played on the double bass. But of course, there are other ways for us to practice our natural minor as well. Now we're going to use our Chrome Music Lab Songmaker tool to create a natural minor scale. I just need to make sure that my Chrome Music Lab is all set up from the start as we would see it. So we've logged into Chrome Music Lab, and this is what we see. And of course, the start symbol is sort of where my head is right now on the screen. But anyway, that's all it is. The play, I'm going to actually start using this space that you can see here in the gray section, which would be the second bar of music. So we're going to make an A natural minor scale in Songmaker. Some of you have already experimented with this, but in Chrome Music Lab Songmaker, you can go to this settings tool over here that looks a little like a flower. When you go in here, there's a few different options that you can play with and experiment with to create different sounds. The first thing we're going to do is change the letter C over in the start on to the letter A and hit tick. Now, my Do note, which often we think Do is C, Do can be any note, my Do note is going to be A. So here I have an A. Then, if I go next note up, I'll have B, C, which is actually C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and then A once again. Have a listen to it. I'm going to press the button that's behind my head. There we go. Now we've got an A major scale. To make this a minor scale, we need to change some things. We need to lower the third, the sixth, and the seventh note of the scale by 1/2 step. I'll say that again. The third note of the scale, the sixth note of the scale, and the seventh note by 1/2 step. Which means if it is an A sharp, we need to make it an A natural by lowering it 1/2 step. And we're going to make this A minor scale. Now, we're in Chrome Music Lab and we can't make any of these notes lower because it just becomes a completely different note altogether. But we can change some things in the settings to make this possible. So I'm going to go back into that flower cog tool and hit the settings and change my scale from major to... Oh, you can't see the drop down list. Where I'm moving my mouse right now, you can see there are actually some options. It says pentatonic and chromatic. I'm going to click the one that says chromatic and hit the tick. Now I have a few more notes. You can now see what's really, really cool about this. You can see that there is a whole step here, a whole step here, half step here, because there's one gap, and then no gap. For a major scale, this is what we've got. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Or tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. I know that a lot of these words get confusing, but if you hear them enough, you may get used to hearing them. So let's now make it a minor scale instead of A major. So instead of having whole step, half step, I'm going to make the third note of the scale a semitone lower. Let's count. 1, 2, 3. I'll make it a semitone lower. So instead of being a C sharp, it's now going to be a C natural. You'll also recognize it as the color of the note C from the Boomwhackers if you're very clever and thinking a lot. All right, then we're going to go whole step to the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth note of the scale now needs to be lowered as well because we're going to lower the third, the sixth, and the seventh. So count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's change this note, the sixth note. Instead of being an F sharp, it's going to now become an F natural. And our G sharp, which is the seventh note. I'm not going to count all the way up because I know it's the second last note. 8 minus 1, 7. So here we have our G sharp becomes a G natural. Now I'm going to hit play, which is this button behind my head. Ready? 3, 2, 1. And we'll listen to the A minor scale. Wonderful. Now for the rest of this session, what I'd like you to do is to have a go at creating your own song in Songmaker using your new knowledge of a minor scale. So if you would like to, you can go back into your settings and you can change the note that you start on. You could make it a D, you could make it a whatever you wanted to. I'm going to leave mine at A. Leave the note that you start on. You might like to make your piece of music longer and hit this tick when you're happy with it. Now I've got my A minor scale still sitting there. This can be a really good reference. Now that you've made it, it's a good way to know where the notes are to make sure you stay in the minor scale. So we want to keep this in this minor, sad sort of feeling today. Let's try to stick to only these colored notes that you see. So you can create any sort of melody that you like, but make sure that we're not using any notes that won't be found in our A minor scale. You might like to use some repeated notes. You might like to challenge yourself, and you might like to create a melody as well as possibly an ostinato, which is a rhythm that repeats over and over and over and over. Anyway, here's what I've created. Remember, you can also do things like add in beats and change the tempo of the song as you go. Also change the instruments, which you can find just behind where you're watching this video too. Here's what mine sounds like. Thanks so much for watching this video. Enjoy using Chrome Music Lab to create a piece of music in our minor scale today. Cool. Enjoy this piece of music.